Hey everybody, Koricon here, and we're going to be looking at the part 4 of making of a 2.0. I did videos for the other ones. I did one which was part 1, making of, and then another video that had parts 2 and 3, which were both the VFX featurette and the 3D camera technology featurette. So if you want to hear my ideas on that, you can go and watch those videos. And we also had the teaser trailer that came out a little while ago that I also reacted to, so you can check that out. And I want to give a shout out to Halion, which is the company that made my website. You can check it out. It's Koricon.net. They did a good job. I'm happy with it. And Gino, you are awesome. I appreciate you. So let's check out Making of 2.0 Part 4. I am glad that they're doing another making of. The teaser trailer that we got had some cool elements in there. I liked the CGI of the cell phone bird, but there were some other things in there that I thought were a little underwhelming, and I went into that in my reaction. You can check out that review if you want more, but I'm curious of what they're going to do because they had a lot of problems with post-production and things are kind of in the air. People have a lot of questions. You know, one of the things people that support 2.0 are saying, this is the teaser that was released a while ago and things are not finished on it. Other people are just saying that it doesn't look good. So it's very split. I'm more of in the middle. I'm kind of attached to the film in that I liked the first one. I liked Enteron, and so I'm curious to see what they do with it. There were things that I was happy about in the teaser, and there's things that I was not quite sure about. But let's check it out. Let's check out this making of and see what they got. I don't have any subtitles, but the other ones were in English, so this one will probably be in English as well. But let's see what Shankar has to tell. Shankar. Sorry, people keep telling me it's Shankar. I see an A, I pronounce it A. See, I thought that looked good. More previs. Now we saw some of this in the second making of. Getting a little bit more footage in here. More Amy Jackson. We didn't see much of her in the other stuff. I am glad that they did a lot of previs, because previs does help a lot. Motion capture. I do like that they are using some practical makeup and practical, on-set kind of costume tech. They're not relying totally on CGI. Oh, that took place in a mall. That's a little different. Alright, let's go through some of this. See, I thought the bird looked good. Now it's a bunch of cell phones, so you're using a particle element, which is actually really smart for using CGI because it doesn't need to be photogenetic. When you make things that are photogenetic, it makes it very difficult to do the CGI, and you spend a lot more time on it. When you're doing a particle element, it's really down to the movement and, how well you structure the particles into a shape. And I thought the movements look good, and I think the way that they make the bird looks good. And I do like the idea of the cell phones because you have the light from the cell phone can give you different colors. It wouldn't make sense if it was just a bunch of dead cell phones. Where does the orange come from? So I do like that aspect. It's just that my biggest question, and I had it in the teaser, is how is he controlling cell phones? Is it controlled magnetism like Magneto? You know, how is he specifically altering the physical attributes of just cell phones? I hope they explain it in the movies because it's something that bothers me. I know it's a small thing, but it really bugs me. I need to know what they're explaining. Even if it's a simple explanation and it's a sci-fi comic book explanation, I don't care. I just want an explanation, something I can cling on to, just like a comic book explanation. Now, 2,150 VFX shots. I'm a little worried about that because their budget is around, what is it, $80 million, $75 million. That's a lot of shots for that kind of a budget. I'm a little worried that you're not going to be able to make all of the shots look good. So where do you focus the money on? And obviously they're focusing it on, you know, some of those particle elements of that bird because that really looked good. But what shots are going to falter because they don't get the funding that the other shots get? Now, some people were comparing the budget to like Deadpool 2 or Deadpool 1. And yeah, the budgets are the same, but where they put the CGI was very limited. So the visual effects shots were nowhere close to that many. And then I do understand the fact that you don't need to spend as much money because in American movies, it costs more to do the visual effects shots. So that makes sense. But I'm wondering if the offset is enough. I mean, we'll see for sure when the movie comes out. These are just questions that I'm throwing out into the ether, and I'm sure some of you will give me your theories on that, and I would like to know what you think. Now, I am happy that they're doing pre-visualization because pre-vis really helps narrow down what scenes you want to focus on for your CGI, what you're going to pump your money into. Now, the previs that they did on this movie is pretty extensive, which means it did take a good amount of the budget to pull off the previs. But it would save you a lot of money with as many shots that they have to focus on which ones get the most money. So I'm wondering how much did they spend on the previs? Did they go a little overboard with it? But it looks like Shankar was very specific of like what scenes that he wanted. He probably had a full edit of the movie with all previs and then, edit it down to where he wanted it for the storyline and then went into the CGI. So he's probably had an edit of the movie for the past year. And then with the problems that they had with the actual CGI and the visual effects, I'm curious. I'm really curious to see what happens. Now, we still haven't gotten too much from Amy Jackson. I was hoping we would get a little bit more in this. Now, we do have an extra scene, which is pretty cool, but we haven't had as much information on her character as we have for Rajinikanth and Akshay Kumar's. So I want to know more about her, but I guess we'll have to either wait for a full trailer, which I don't think they'll get into her too much, and we'll just have to wait for the movie. I mean, maybe there's a surprise element with her character that they don't want to give away in the trailer. And if that's the case, then I'm really glad she's not in it. But I'm curious. And of course, that's what the teasers and the trailers are supposed to do, is make me curious. Native 3D animatronics. I do like that they're using animatronics. That does save money on CGI. And I think, practical always looks better. So if you can do animatronics, even if you augment them with a little CGI in some places, the practical always looks better. So I'm glad that they're doing that, not relying all three on CGI. 1,300 previs shots with 1,000 complex visual effects shots. So that probably means there were about 300 previs shots that they did not turn into CGI elements, which means that did save him a lot of money. So it's good that they did the previs. VCam, SpiderCam, and LiDAR. I don't know a lot about those systems. I have heard of them and a little bit in passing. So that is something that I would like to research more of to see how they would have utilized those. I'm glad that they listed them there because, I do like behind the scenes stuff, and knowing what they were using when they filmed this would be really interesting. So I'm going to go and look those up so I get some more specifics. If you've got some information on them, comment below, but I'll be looking it up as well. Concept artists, 3D designers, and craftsmen. Now, I do like the fact that they had 500 craftsmen. And if you look at this little montage, you had practical models, you had makeup, huge sets, and I love the fact that they're using huge sets and not relying totally on green screen and putting in the sets in post, because it will look great if you have practical sets. So I'm really happy about that. I mean, that set just looks cool. However, I think this sequence may be a song and dance. No, maybe. It might be like his lair, but I don't think so. I mean, they've got a forest of, it looks like random parts turned into trees. So maybe he is controlling it with controlled magnetism because he's got things that are not cell phones that he's controlling here. So maybe it is like a Magneto kind of thing where he can control any kind of metal, but he's deciding to only control cell phones for some of those attack scenes, which means that it would be kind of that storyline that people were talking about in the comments for my teaser reaction, where Akshay Kumar's character he's angry about how the cell phones are hurting the environment, specifically birds, maybe. And he had died, which I didn't quite pick up when I saw the teaser the first time. I thought he was kind of floating in that cell tower. And people pointed out that if you look at it close, he's really hanging like he's dead, which makes a lot of sense. You know, and the birds come in, bring him back to life, kind of like a super villain type of storyline. And then he uses, I don't know how he got the magnetism, though. That's a bit of an odd thing to get. You know, when you have some characters that are created that way, like Catwoman had a storyline kind of similar to that, but she's had multiple origins, that they kind of get the attributes of that animal. You know, magnetism is not exactly an attribute of being a bird. So I would be curious, maybe he just has it like Magneto, which would be interesting. I mean, you don't really need to explain that too much as long as you're saying he has those powers. And it could be maybe that he gets those powers because it's part of the retribution of the cell phone technology. Kind of like the Crow, if you ever watched the Crow. He doesn't have the powers of magnetism, but he doesn't die, you know, until he gets his revenge. But he was also brought back to life by an animal spirit kind of thing. 4 action directors. Now that does mean that Shankar was able to give some control away for the action sequences. Although it may be really difficult for a director to do, I do like that he did that because it may be for sequences that he probably would not be able to direct as well as an action director. And there's a lot of directors that do that. I'm glad that he's able to, because some directors think, oh, I can do it, and then they don't do it very well, and they needed an action director. So maybe he realized, okay, I need an action director for these sequences. Now, since you have 4, it could be because they're filming 4 action sequences at the same time and they're kind of like unit directors, or each action director is for a specific thing, whether one is for a fight sequence, one is for action sequence that has a lot of CGI elements, so he's got to be more of a visual effects kind of action director. One might be large stunts like we see here. That one's fighting. It looks like that guy is fighting. This guy looks like he might be more of an action, like large-scale action director. And then you have these kind of big setups. So they probably specialize in certain types of action sequences, which is cool. Now, this part takes place in a mall. So they're going to have a lot of different fight sequences. You know, one is outside in that town. One is in this mall. Another one was at the stadium. I'm wondering how long this fight sequence is going to be. Looks like it may all take place near the end. One of them, like this one, may take place before the intermission, and then the other are connected and they take place at the end of the film. If they all take place at the end of the film, that would be maybe a little bit too long. So I hope they do kind of break it up. If you have your action sequence too long, then it loses its impact. And by the end of it, people are like, okay, I get it, and they lose interest. So hopefully he split them up a bit and it's not like a 1 hour action sequence, because after about 15-20 minutes, people are just going to be like, all right, come on, let's get to the end of this. So overall, I'm still really curious about the movie. I want to know what they do with it. There's some things that I'm worried about and some things that I'm happy about. We'll see what happens, but I'm kind of in the middle. I'm a little lukewarm on it. I'm not super excited, but I'm not turned off. I know most of the fans are kind of split right now. Some people hate it. Some people love it. Some people are only for their movie star. But I'm kind of in the middle. I'm more neutral. So my review is going to be very neutral. But let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Let me know. All of my links are in the description below. And I will see you on the next video.